Good morning, everyone. It is Ebony with the Identity of She. We are here as always every day, 9 a.m., talking self-love, female empowerment, how to love yourself more, how to grow your business, how to start a business, and everything that encompasses self-love, self-development, being free in your identity, no matter your shape, size, sexuality, no matter what you look like, no matter what you weigh. Thank you guys for tuning in, and let's get into today's episode. Today, I specifically wanted to talk about unemployment, what to do if you are ever unemployed, if you ever find yourself unemployed, how to go about things, and what employers can do, and also what employees can do in terms of being unemployed. Now, when you get that letter that your performance is being evaluated, right? It can be one of the most nerve-wracking things, right? It can be very nerve-wracking and you're like, oh my God, like what did I do this past year? Did I do well? And the anxiety that you can feel from doing a performance evaluation or being reprimanded at work or getting that written warning might deter you. It might really mess with you and make you think like, oh, I'm not good enough. I'm going to get fired. I don't know what to do. So the first thing to do is just like relax. If you've been there for a few years, understand that like you're probably going to be okay. However, a practice that I've learned in terms of my work experience, I've worked many different jobs. I have 2 degrees, one in graphic design, the other in journalism. And so because my work experience is one of those that includes design work where you can outsource that. A lot of times what employers have done to me specifically is let me go because they've decided to outsource the work. And when they've outsourced the work, it's become cheaper for them. So it's important to kind of understand your position and whether you are like the job that you have and whether the job is an asset to the company or more so a liability. Okay. So that's kind of the first thing. So in terms of dealing with a performance evaluation or dealing with a written warning, now a practice that I've started when I get written warnings is I might start, depending upon how I feel in that job, if I've gotten a written warning or a second written warning, that might be an indicator that they're thinking about letting you go. Because essentially, when it comes to unemployment laws, if you have a negative written performance letter, right? So let's say, you're doing your job, you've been working it for 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you've got something in writing saying that your performance needs to improve or your performance evaluation is negative, it might be an indicator that they might be wanting to let you go. So especially now with today's economy. So if you've gotten a written warning or a negative performance evaluation, the first thing you can do is kind of talk to HR, talk to your higher ups and ask them like, okay, why did I receive this negative evaluation? What can I do to improve my position? And if they say things like, oh, well, you just got to be better. You just got to do better. You got to do your job better. And they don't really give you valuable feedback. It might be time to kind of go ahead and start looking at getting another job. In the state of Arizona, it typically takes about 3 to 5 months to gain full employment, to go from interview to getting the new job. So if you've gotten a written warning and you're already uneasy about it, you're already anxious about it, go ahead and start looking for something else. That might be a great opportunity for you to find something that is higher paying, find something that's from home, find something that's less stressful, gives you less anxiety. So the first thing I would say is when you have a negative performance review or evaluation, or you get a written warning, all right, that might be the first indicator that they're looking at potentially letting you go. So you get that written warning, you feel uneasy about it, you can talk to your employers and your higher ups about it. That way they know you're really wanting to improve your performance. However, that might be a good indicator to start looking elsewhere. Now, when it comes to unemployment laws, how it works essentially is a employer can essentially not have to pay you unemployment if you have something in writing saying that your performance needs to increase or that your performance is negative. So if you've gotten a written warning, or if you've gotten a negative review, they can go to unemployment and say this person underperformed at their position, and that is why we let them go, and then they don't have to pay unemployment. So that's why I say a good indicator of whether your job might be at stake is if you've gotten a negative review or a written warning. Okay. Especially if it's in writing. If it's verbal, I wouldn't worry about it too much. But if it's written, it's important. If they want you to sign it, that's also an indicator that they're going to use it against you later. I had one of my corporate jobs that I worked as an advertising executive for 3 years. What they did was they changed after year 2.5, they changed my position. So they changed my position to from a executive, an advertising executive, and they moved me to essentially like a assistant to the, the marketing director. And I was really, really close with my boss at the time. And I told him, like, I'm not an assistant. Like, it's not something that I do. Like, I'm at the time I was working in marketing and advertising. And I was like, I do marketing and advertising. You want me to be your assistant? Like, that's completely different. And I told him like that I may need to look elsewhere. And he was like, oh, I really want you to be my assistant. You're perfect for the job. Like, please do it. And so automatically I was in a position where, because I really trusted my boss and I really enjoyed working for him and I learned so much from him, I decided like, oh, it's okay. I'll just go ahead and be his assistant. Worst decision I ever made. I became his assistant, and within a year, I was let go due to not performing, but I knew that there was potential for that simply because I am not an assistant. Like, that's just not something that I do. I'm in advertising and marketing. So, being an assistant, even though my pay was the same, it still kind of felt like a downgrade. And I wish, like, hindsight is 2020. But I wish that I would have done my due diligence in leaving that job before being let go. Now, this is kind of how the company played me. What they did was they brought me into the office while you can tell they were cutting different positions. So about 3 months prior, my best friend, who's also the Identity of She's videographer, she got let go. And the way she got let go was really messed up. They had 2 videographers, and I'm explaining this story just so you can see, like, companies can be very shady, right? They can be extremely shady, and it's important for you to kind of understand your place in everything. And you want to be a step ahead above your employer. You don't want to be in a position where you've lost your job and you've lost your livelihood because because of a negative performance evaluation. They've decided not to pay you severance, right? Because that's what happened. So the reason I explain this story is for you all to do better than me and not get caught in the same situation that I got caught in, because it really deterred me from corporate. And it took a while for me to even step back into corporate because of the issue. So here's how they played me. So they moved me to an assistant. And at first I was able to like come and go as I pleased. I was able to come in at whatever time I needed to come in, which was perfect for me. And mind you, I had been with the company for 3 years. So for 3 years, I was coming in at like 9:30, 10, and I would stay my normal hours, and it was hourly. So, it was totally fine in terms of how I was able to move within the company. I was also traveling with the company for a while and planning their events. So they use the shit out of me. And it's hard to admit that, but companies will use you. So again, how they played me. So after being his assistant, about 8 months into it, I get a performance evaluation that was super negative. And they basically said that I need to be in the office every day at 9 a.m. And I was like, okay. And then they also said that they wanted like updates on all the emails I was doing, on all the things that I was doing, and everything like that. So I was like, ooh, all right. So I already knew right then and there that like I felt uneasy about it. And your intuition is so strong. So pay attention to your intuition. Okay. Your intuition will let you know of how to move, how to go about things. Right. So deep down, I was like, ooh, I don't feel good about this. I feel like they're watching me. I feel like they are like analyzing what I'm doing. And another indicator was it was the director of HR alongside my boss that had that written warning meeting. And when HR is involved, that's when it gets really serious. Okay. So about 2 weeks after. Now, mind you, it was very difficult for me to be in the office every day at 9 a.m. when I was so used to coming in at 9:10, 9:15, 10 o'clock, and it was never an issue for 3 years. So now you're telling me it's an issue now. So after 2 weeks, there was 2 times where I had texted my employer and was like, hey, I'm running a little bit late. I think I got in at 9:10 or 9:15. And they used those 2 times against me and then let me go. And then I went to file unemployment from them. Mind you, I've been there for 3 years. Not only did I not get the unemployment because of that written warning, I also did not get severance because they said that I had a negative performance evaluation. So here I am, a company that I've been devoted to for 3 years, and I have no severance. I essentially had the 2-week paycheck that I worked, and that was it. So I had the when I had gotten let go on like the end of the month, and then that was, so I had my next paycheck, right? So I had my next paycheck. That was my final paycheck, which was already for hours worked. I didn't get a single dime of severance, even though I'd been there for 3 years, which is so shitty. And then in addition to that, I also was unable to file unemployment. And I could have fought it, but because they had that written warnings, that written negative performance evaluation, I would have lost. So I just was like, you know what, forget it. So things to keep in mind when you are working for these jobs and everything like that is, again, if you have a negative performance evaluation or a written warning and it's a serious matter where HR is in the mix and they're aware of it, then you know that something is bound to happen. The company might try and let you go. And we want to believe that our employers really appreciate us and they're not going to do us wrong. However, you guys, this is America, land of the damn greed. People will look out for themselves first. And I have another example, and this example really, it deterred me from corporate. Now, I actually haven't gone back to corporate. After that advertising job, I worked for Google for a little bit. I left there because I left there basically, to be frank with you all, because I had I felt like my director was being very racist towards me and was being discriminatory towards me. Whole other story. And because of that, I had filed a complaint and I decided to quit that job. And just the whole thing, like I loved working for Google, but why? Tell me why, after leaving the company the way that I did and filing that racial discrimination complaint, they didn't do their due diligence with investigating it. I only got one person that I actually was able to get a hold of on the phone. They never investigated it. And then about a year later, it was literally global that Google was underpaying Black female employees. So it wasn't just me. Okay. So I say all this to say to you all is be a step ahead of your employer. Understand that that employer 9 times out of 10 does not give a shit that you have dedicated years and years of your life to this company. They don't give a shit that you have to get up every single day and, get your kids to school at a certain time and then figure out how you're going to get to work at the certain time, work the hours that they want you to work. And then in good faith, you're going to get a paycheck in 2 or 3 weeks, right? And how frustrating is it to work a job and you don't get paid right away? You don't get paid the next day, right? Because of the way that everything is set up, you get paid in 2 or 3 weeks. And that shit sucks, right? So if there was ever any indicator to try to find income on your own, try to start your own business and find other sources of income, other ways to make money where you can make it fast, where you can make it in a more enjoyable way. I think when you deal with getting let go or parting ways from a company, like it should really motivate you and encourage you to start something on your own and find other ways to make income so that you don't end up ass out and without a job, without unemployment, and just literally stuck. That was one of the hardest times because I literally had no income. However, what I had was my business, and I was able it took about 4 months before I had started working for Google after leaving, after getting let go from the advertising firm. So it took about 4 months, but in those 4 months, I really worked my ass off when it came to my business, trying to get sales, trying to create other sources of income for my business. All right. So shady things that companies will do is so they can get out of paying unemployment. All right. They will do a written warning, do something in writing, letting them know that your performance isn't up to par. And they will use that against you when it comes to you trying to file unemployment. Now, what is the unemployment rate in Arizona and how is it doing? Okay, so the unemployment rate in Arizona is about 4%. It is lower in past years. It's actually been as high as 6%. So the unemployment rate in Arizona is better. However, companies are still laying people off left and right. Why is this? All right, I'm going to tell you why. A lot of companies did not do a lot of adjusting correctly during the time of COVID and during those, let's see, COVID happened in 2020. So we have 2020, 2021, 2022, and 2023. Perhaps they didn't do enough adjusting in those years, right? And now in 2024, they're like, oh shit, like we have too many employees where our income is not the same anymore. Maybe the cost for paying the materials has gone up as it has for most companies. And they're like, wow, we have to really re-strategize. Okay. And that is when they end up letting people go. And how they typically let people go is they'll do performance evaluations and they'll do like massive layoffs. And when you're dealing with a massive layoff, oh my gosh, the anxiety. You might have friends that have said like, hey, yeah, I lost my job. You may want to be careful. And again, if they're doing massive layoffs, that's another indicator to start looking for another job because again, you want to stay a step ahead of your employer. That's how it works, guys. This unspoken false faith that we have in companies, that's what gets us and screws us every single time. And as someone who has worked so many jobs and so many different careers, and now I work in behavioral health and I work for my father, so it's a little bit different now. And I'm so thankful for that. But as someone who has worked so many different jobs in different career fields, from graphic design to advertising to marketing, I've been a marketing director. I've been several different positions that I've had since graduating in 2013. So since college, like it's been so many different positions. And again, I want you all to be better than me. I don't want anybody to experience what I've experienced, being unemployed and not having any additional income. And then, you don't have a severance and you're literally ass out and you don't know what to do. Okay. Now, on the employer side, so let's say you've started this business and now you've got employees. A tip that I have learned from a seven-figure business owner is it's actually easier for you to cut a person's hours and develop a system where your hours are dependent upon performance. Okay. And you can cut back hours instead of letting people go. What's the advantage of cutting hours instead of letting people go is that when a person quits, they cannot file unemployment. So as an employer, cutting back hours and allowing that person to be like, okay, well, you cut my hours to part-time. I can only do part-time for so long. It really kind of gives the employee the opportunity to find something else while still getting paid, even though they're only getting paid part-time. And that kind of situation, everybody wins versus having to let an employee go and then they're on unemployment. And then you don't know, you probably might be paying that person's unemployment for months and months and months. Again, it takes about 3 to 5 months to find solid income in Arizona. So it might be months and months and months. Some people are on unemployment for a solid year. So imagine you're an employer and you did your due diligence and you let a person go, and let's say you didn't put it in writing, and that person was performing negatively, and then all of a sudden you let them go and now they've got unemployment on your ass and they're gonna stay stuck on unemployment for years and years or months and months, simply because of the way unemployment laws are set up. Okay. So again, if you're an employer, think about cutting back a person's hours before letting them go, because it's an advantage to the employer and it gives the employee an opportunity to still earn certain part-time income while they look for another job, versus letting someone go and then you have to pay severance. And then if you are paying severance 9 times out of 10, if it's a decent severance, you don't have to pay unemployment and they won't qualify for unemployment because they have to claim that severance as income. But you don't want to be in a situation where you're paying unemployment for months simply because the situation didn't work out. Okay. Now, I had a company after I worked for Google. It was a private advertising firm that was doing geofencing. Okay. And geotagging. What is geofencing and geotagging? It's essentially what a lot of events do. A lot of concert venues will do this. What they do is it's marketing based off of your cell phone's IP address. Okay. So your cell phone has an IP address, kind of like your home address for your cell phone. So what they would do is find ways to target IP addresses, and based off of the IP addresses in the area, they would send ads to these IP addresses about what's going on in their area, concerts, events, things like that. Grant Cardone was one of their biggest employers. However, the company was very scammy, and you got to pay attention to this type of stuff, guys. There are a lot of scammy type of employers out there. I'm going to break down for you how they were just not efficient. And the way that they were not efficient and a little bit of a scam is because the way that the system worked in terms of tracking their IP addresses, when I would see the back end of it, it never worked. And I would ask to see a little bit more details, because I would look at advertising campaigns and I would be like, okay, this shows 0 viewers. This shows 0 people clicked on this ad. This literally shows nothing. And they would take how those platforms that show nothing, literally nothing, zero views, zero likes, zero people responding to these ads, and they would show it to these companies they are working with. And the companies would just go along with it. Well, yeah, that's totally fine. Like, I trust you guys. And how I feel like the business was a scam was they weren't, the back end of the geofencing, I don't feel like was ever set up. Either never set up at all or set up one time and never managed. Okay. So here I am working for this company trying to manage something, and I don't even see the full back end access. They never gave me full back end access, another scam. Because if they were transparent and honest, I would have been able to see full back end access to really see all of the IP addresses being targeted. Okay. So over time, I tried to do the best that I could do. It was very hard negotiating contracts and getting people to start advertising with them when they weren't seeing results. So I kind of knew like, ooh, something is not right with this company. So what happened was, out of nowhere, I get an email stating that I am being let go. And the reason is that they've decided to move in a different direction. Okay, really general. All right. So, and the manager, because there was like a head boss and then a manager. And the head boss was super fucking unorganized, and she was like all over the place. And she was also like very rude in how she would talk to people. Like, this needs to be done this way. And I don't understand what you're doing. I don't understand like why you're doing this way. And understand, guys, in terms of bettering your mental health, like having self-love, how you are treated in certain situations when it comes to dealing with your partner, dealing with your kids, dealing with your job, that's important. And it directly, like, it aligns with how you treat yourself. Going into situations that are toxic, workplace situations where a person is talking down to you, that boss that's just always on your ass or hovering over your back. Did you do this? Did you do this? Did you do this? That's not good. And again, this is just a job. There are companies lined up on Indeed, on Glassdoor, looking for other people to work for them. And yeah, it might take 3 to 5 months, but I'd much rather put myself in a position where I'm working for a company that's evolving and thriving, and not for somebody that's being demeaning, making me feel like I'm not shit, making me feel like I'm worthless when I know what the fuck I'm doing. Okay. So pay attention to how your higher ups and your bosses make you feel. Do they encourage you? Is the workplace environment a nice, comfortable environment? Do you enjoy actually being there? If you fucking hate your job, quit. Find something else first, but quit. Okay. We no longer have time to deal with companies and be a number for them and go out of our way to dedicate months and years of our lives to companies that treat us like shit. Okay. It's not fair. All right. So I say all that to say, be careful as you go into companies and really vet them. Ask them questions. What's the workplace like? What is the work-life balance like? Mm-hmm. Do I get unlimited PTO? Do I get unlimited vacations? If not, how much vacation time do I get? Ask those questions up front. Don't just be like, oh my gosh, they're hiring me and they're offering me a paycheck, so I have to take it. No. Come in with the number that you feel you deserve and make that shit high. For real, make that high. Mawa, who was here on Friday, and we were talking about co-parenting, right? Mawa, we talked a little bit about her business and what she does, but her full time, she does what's it called? Project management for Fortune 500 companies through her employer, right? So she does project management for a Fortune 500 company. She's worked on Nike campaigns. She has worked on so many campaigns, McKesson. She's worked on these big major projects, right? And she has made tons and tons of money. And one thing I have learned from her is you don't come in asking for $15 an hour. You come in asking for your highest rate and seeing if they can meet you at your highest rate. Don't be afraid to ask for a $60,000 salary job or a $70,000 or a $100,000 job. Come in asking for it. Make sure you have the qualifications to back you. Make sure you have the certificates and everything like that. For Mawa, she had a lot of certificates, project management certificates, certifications that she has accomplished, other things that she has had, right? And she's been able to do that. So I say all this to say, when you are going to these companies and asking for a raise or asking for your starting salary or your starting hourly wage, aim high. Aim high. Because if you come in like, oh, $15, $16 an hour is great. And not to say there's anything wrong with making $15 or $16 an hour. Nothing wrong with that. However, when you come in asking for the low amount, they're not going to be like, oh, no, you're so great. We're going to pay you $25 an hour. No, if you come in asking for a low rate, they are going to meet you at the low rate. OK, they're trying to save as much money as possible, and you are trying to earn as much money as possible. So don't be afraid of yourself. Do not sell yourself short. Apply for companies that are making 60,000 or that have salaries at 60,000, 70,000, 100,000. And yeah, it might take a little bit longer, but I guarantee you, if you work your ass off to do it and get your certifications, depending on your industry, you will make it. I promise you, you will be able to get that 7-figure, that 6-figure job. Okay. You can do it. But if you sell yourself short and go for the minimum amount of the $15 or $16 an hour, they're not going to just like, oh, okay, we're going to give you more. Like, no, they're going to give you what you ask for. So ask for the highest amount. Okay. Now, another thing to do that I think a lot of people don't do and get scared of doing, and yes, it takes some organizing. Yes, it takes some planning. Yes, it's more difficult to do. But if you're in a situation where you've lost your job, okay, if you have a service-based business, okay, so I'm talking to accountants, I am talking to tax people, right? I'm talking to people that provide services for businesses and individuals that need it, right? Everybody needs an accountant. Everybody needs a financial planner, a financial advisor. So if you have that type of background, if you have marketing background, advertising background, social media background, use that to your advantage and go out and seek employers, or go out and seek businesses and individuals and figure out how you can make income on your own. Now, what's the first step that I would do? First thing I would do is have some sort of online presence so that they know you're serious about the services that you offer, okay? Building a landing page. You can use GoDaddy. You can use Shopify. You can use Squarespace. Now, a lot of these, you have to pay for a domain. So a domain is like $10 or $15. And then you also have to pay for a monthly service fee. With GoDaddy, I'm not sure how much GoDaddy's monthly service fee is. I think it's like $15 or $20. Squarespace is like $35 to $40. Shopify is about $42. So depending on what platform you use, create a landing page. Try to do it on your own before hiring anybody else, okay? Try your hardest to do it on your own. And I promise you, it's going to take a little bit of time, but if you've lost your job and instead of just sending applications every day, actually do this on the side so that you can build up residual income, build up extra income, okay? So let's run it back to the scenario. You've lost your job, okay? And you're like, all right, I'm an accountant. I'm a marketing executive. I'm an advertising executive. So what I'm going to do is build a landing page marketing my services, okay? And think about the everyday business owner. Think about the everyday individual. Think about who can really use your services, all right? Again, if you're an accountant, if you're a tax advisor, if you're a financial advisor, a financial planner, maybe you do things like you do retirement benefits and stuff like that. Okay. So really think about a service that you can offer. Okay. A big thing, guys, a big thing that people sleep on is social media. And I know I talk a lot about social media, but if you are somebody as an individual and you've been able to acquire 40,000 followers, 50,000 followers, 60,000 followers, right? A company will hire you because if you've been able to do it for yourself, you can do it for that company. Okay. So if you're a social media person, if you got a really good TikTok following, if you got a really good Instagram following, reach out to companies and say like, hey, I've built this following. I would love for you guys to hire me, and I can help you generate followers. I can help you generate income and have companies pay you every single month to generate followers, to generate income for the business. Okay. That's another thing I've done before is I've reached out to companies, and this was during my time of being unemployed. And I've said to them like, hey, I've been able to get just shy of 60,000 followers now. At the time, I think I was at 40,000, and give me the opportunity to see if I can build followers for your business. It's difficult. It's definitely difficult. The longer in time that we've waited, especially on Instagram, it's a little bit harder in 2024 to get those followers that it was in 2016 and 2015 and in 2018 and 2019, because that was prior to TikTok. That was prior to all of these other like Discord and all these other things that have come into play now. All right. So it's a little bit more difficult to generate a following in 2024 than it was in previous years. However, it's not impossible. And if you have a really great following, use that to your advantage. So going back to the person that has recently lost their job. Okay. So you recently lost your job. You're an accountant, you're a social media manager. You have a background of expertise. First, you want to build a landing page. And on that landing page, again, using GoDaddy, Shopify, Squarespace, one of those platforms, you build a landing page. And essentially, what's a landing page? It's like a mini website. It's like a one pager where you can instantly put your services, the prices, and then a couple of pictures of things of work you've done, campaigns you've worked on. Okay. Going back to that social media person, maybe you put a screenshot of your platform so people can see, like, yeah, I was able to acquire and get 40,000, 50,000 followers. Okay. So you create this landing page, and then after you've created it and it looks really good and really nice and really professional, and you've got your logo on there and you've got your services on there, again, go off of things that you are an expert in, things that you've went to school for, things that you've got certifications in. Go off of that and then create this landing page, right? So you've created your landing page, and then I would start reaching out to people on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok. The biggest thing I would say is your Facebook followers, because if you're a social media person, 9 times out of 10, there's people out there that are wanting to grow their Instagram, that are wanting to grow their TikTok, and they will pay you. Okay. You offer an affordable rate. Don't make it outrageous. But you offer an affordable rate. They'll pay you for you to manage their accounts, manage their TikTok, manage their Instagram. Also managing things like their TikTok ads, managing their Instagram ads. That's something that I've done for companies in the past, is managing their ads of how they're spending in terms of the ads that they've paid Instagram/Facebook to run for them. Okay. So that's something you can do. Okay. So you build this landing page, you put your services on there, you put your pricing on there, you put a contact form where people can reach out to you. And then you get on Facebook and you say, hey, Facebook fam, I've just started a business. Woo woo. Everybody's going to be so proud of you for starting a business. And don't make it a long Don't make it like a long ass post. Make it real short and sweet. I've started my business. I would love for you guys to support me. If you are needing tax services, if you are needing social media services, if you are needing marketing services, please reach out to me via DM, or you can go to my website and fill out the contact form. Okay. And then you'll probably start seeing people that are going to message you, or going to comment like, oh, I could use this. Oh, this will be great for me. Oh, I'm interested. Or they might tag other people. You go through those comments, right? And you start DMing people. In terms of how to get clients, what I'm learning, especially in 2024, is the sale happens in the DMs, especially as a service-based business. It doesn't just happen. It doesn't just like, you're not going to just get people to, oh, I'm just going to send you money on Cash App. Like, no, they're going to ask you questions of how you can help them, because each business is different. Each person has different needs, different goals. So keep that in mind as you are, building, this website, building this landing page and trying to gather clients. And then as you get your clients and everything, keep messaging them and say like, hey, would you still be interested in utilizing my services? Okay. And boom, there you go. You've just started your own business. And instead of just relying on unemployment, instead of just relying on your severance, you can now have another income stream. So I just showed you all how to create another income stream as a service-based business. All right. Great thing about service-based businesses is it's all dependent upon services. So you don't have a big, you don't have a whole lot of startup fees. Your only startup fees are really paying for that domain. What is a domain? Essentially like the identityofshe.com, power989.com. Like those are domains. It's essentially the home place of your website. Okay. So you want a domain, and you want to use your own domain. So if your business is Dark and Lovely, your domain should be Dark and Lovely, not Dark and Lovely on Squarespace. Like it should be a domain that you've paid for so that they know how serious your business is. We want to look as if we are a big business, even though you're just starting out. Okay. That helps in terms of your professionality. All right, so you've created this other income stream, and then you spend time reaching out to companies on social media, reaching out to individuals on social media, asking, hey, like, do you want to grow your following? Do you want some tax advice? Do you want some advice, accounting advice? I can help you create a financial breakdown. I can help you create a financial plan and charge them X amount of dollars. Now, in terms of starting your own service-based business, the biggest thing, guys, always make sure that you require a deposit, something upfront, because people have a tendency to be more serious about what they're doing when they've paid upfront. Okay. Then you get the money first. So that way you can figure out how much time you're spending. The worst thing that you can do is start doing services for somebody. They haven't paid you, and then you're chasing them, messaging them, texting them, trying to get money based off of services that you've already done. It's the worst place to be in. And like, I'm an advertiser. I'm not a salesman. Like I try my hardest to be a salesman, but like I'm not one of those like greasy salesmen that's like, I need you to pay me. I need you to pay me. I need you to pay me. Like that's just not me. So understand like who you are in terms of whether you're a salesman or not, whether you're an advertiser or not. And really make sure that you get a deposit from them first. You're designing a website for a company, they need to pay an upfront fee, and then they can pay you a fee upon completion. Okay. Now you can also offer a discount if they are willing to pay for the whole thing up front. Like if you're willing to pay for your whole website design up front, I'm willing to give you 15% off. I'm willing to give you 20% off. Okay. So those are things that you can do to start that business. All right. Another thing to think about in terms of being unemployed, right? So I really encourage you, if you have not gotten that written warning and you just got let go out of nowhere because of budget cuts or because of inflation or whatever excuse they try to put out there, file unemployment. And I'm talking to the men out there, because a lot of men will be like, well, no, the unemployment is beneath me, I'm not doing it. Like, nobody has to know you're on unemployment. Okay. It's not something you have to like sing from the mountaintop, but if you can get extra income, especially if you've worked for a company and they have screwed you over, you've worked there less than a year, so you don't get a severance, or they've just decided not to give you a severance for whatever reason, because in the state of Arizona, it's a right to work state, meaning the employer has all the leverage. They don't have to give you a severance. Okay, they should in good faith, but they don't have to. There's nothing legally binding that states an employer has to give you a severance, even if you've worked there for 10 years. Okay, crazy, right? So if you're in a position where you've been let go from a company, why not go ahead and get that unemployment? Now, how much does unemployment give you? I'm glad you asked. Typically, it's only about $250 to $350 a week. It's not a whole lot. During COVID, it actually went up to like $800 a week. So if you saw people that were on unemployment for a while, that is why, because they were getting about 3 times the amount that unemployment was previously. Unemployment rates have in terms of the cost for unemployment, how much you can get, it's gone up a little bit, but it has not gone up to the amount of where it was during COVID. Okay. So keep in mind that it's only about $250 to $300 a week. Okay. So if you are used to making $60,000, $70,000 a year, that's not going to come close to what you've made. So a big reason as to why you should start that service-based business, a big reason as to why you should fill out applications, try to aim for at least 10 to 20 applications every single day, is because unemployment's really not that much, but it's something. Go and get it. Another thing that you can do is, if you get to a place where you're unemployed, you can apply for food stamps. You can apply for Access. Access will essentially help you. And if you qualify for Access, there you go. You have some free healthcare that you can use, where you can go to the doctor for free, and you don't have to deal with co-pays and everything like that on Access. So Access is one of the greatest programs. And what we talked about yesterday was mental health. Access actually has the best mental health resources in the state of Arizona. So these are things that you should think about, is unemployment, food stamps, applying for Access. If you ever get in a situation where you have no income, because that's just going to help. Imagine you lose your job. They tell you, oh, your health benefits stopped a week after you've lost your job, and then you get sick or you get in a car accident, and then you've got all these hospital bills and you have no health insurance. So if you get in a situation where you've lost your job, definitely apply for Access, because you don't have any income. So they're more likely to approve you. So I know we've talked about so many different things on this platform and during this episode, but to recap, okay, you ever get in a situation where you're unemployed, first, just pay attention to the surroundings of the environment of the workplace. If they're doing massive layoffs, that's an indicator that you might want to start looking elsewhere. If you've gotten a negative performance review or a few negative performance reviews in a short amount of time, also an indicator you might start wanting to look elsewhere for another job. If you've received and this is the biggest one, guys, biggest indicator that you want to look elsewhere, if you've received a written warning and they've made you sign that written warning, that is the biggest indicator that they might be potentially letting you go. So if you've gotten the written warning and you've signed it, and it's this big thing, especially if HR is aware and HR has to sign it and your boss has to sign it, it's become this big thing. That might be an indicator that you need to start looking elsewhere. Okay. And as you're looking elsewhere, do not sell yourself short. Do not just apply for bare minimum jobs. Really seek high paying jobs. Go aim high, and have a dollar amount and aim higher than that. And then they'll probably try to negotiate somewhere lower. But if you start low and they're going to negotiate, then, you're essentially accepting less. Where if you start high and then they negotiate lower, then you end up at the place that you want to be. Okay. So to recap, if you get unemployed, these are a few things that you can do. Okay. So for one, is pay attention to what's going on in the workplace surroundings. If they're doing massive layoffs and things like that, pay attention to your performance evaluations, pay attention to negative written warnings that you've received. Okay. Pay attention to those. Use apps like Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, where you can apply for jobs on your phone. It is very important, especially to my marketing people, my advertising people, my website people, or web design people. Keep your LinkedIn updated, okay? Don't make it outdated. Keep it updated. Get on apps like Glassdoor and Indeed where you can apply for jobs on your phone. So while you're sitting there watching TV, you could be like, oh, I want to apply for jobs. So I'm going to use Indeed. I'm going to use Glassdoor, and I'm going to start just click, applying for jobs. Update your resume before you get on Indeed and Glassdoor. Update your resume. Also, when you're updating your resume, before spending money and hiring somebody to check your resume for you, make sure you Google 2024 updated resumes so that you're using the appropriate keywords, because most employers aren't just reading your resume, they're using a filing system to scan them. Okay. My friend told me that she just applied for a job. There was 1,200 other applicants. 1,200. Crazy, right? So there's not a team that's just reading these resumes, right? They are using certain machines that are scanning and looking for keywords. So you want to make sure you have keywords in your resume, keywords that they will use, and those will be highlighted to push your resume ahead. Do some research on the appropriate keywords for your industry, depending upon your job that you have and the career that your interest, right? Use the appropriate keywords and really do your research when you update your resume. So you update your resume, you get on Indeed, you get on Glassdoor, you aim for about 10 to 20 applications every single day. Find out how to do it from your phone through Glassdoor and Indeed. It's really easy. And that is something that you can do, okay? As an employer, pay attention to your employees. And again, a little tip is, instead of doing the severance and doing the letting them go, maybe the better option would be to just cut their hours back a little bit. So cutting 10 hours or 20 hours or making your full-time employees part-time employees, that might be a better scenario. And the reason of that is, if you've pulled back their hours to part-time, you essentially don't have to pay unemployment for letting them go, okay? And then you don't have to pay a severance if they quit, okay? So that might be a benefit to employers. For that employee, if you've gone from full-time to part-time, and you've realized like, oh, I've got part-time income now, so I can't I don't have as much money, that gives you an opportunity to start applying for jobs while you still have that part-time income. And chances are that part-time income is going to be higher for you versus just getting unemployment, which again is only $250 to $350 a week. Okay. So to recap, we discussed what to do if you're unemployed, how to start creating income for yourself through having a service-based business. Okay. And I honestly think like there's not a single industry out there that I don't think a service-based business would benefit from, right? Because couldn't we all use extra income, right? Don't we all want to have residual money that we can make in our sleep, money that we can make while we're on vacation, money that we can make on the side? Absolutely, right? So I can't think of any other industry, really any industry, that could not benefit from a service-based business. So again, to recap, we talked about what to do if you're unemployed, okay? What to think about as you start working for these companies and while working for these companies. Another thing, if you've been there for several years, and I'm sure you're really, really comfortable, understand that at the end of the day, you are just a number. And unfortunately, you are just a number, okay? And they will replace you. And a little example that I want to put out there for you all in the last few minutes that we have left. And I was starting to talk about this and then my mind went elsewhere on the tips and stuff, but the advertising company that I worked for, I had this really nice lady who was I can't remember her position. I know it was in advertising as well. And she was like a big higher up. She had been with the company like 20 years, like maybe even longer than that. And so what happened was over time, she got really sick. She got super sick. And she ended up unfortunately passing away. And it was difficult because I had bonded with her. So to hear that she had passed away was so sad. And so I was expecting the company to do something special for her family, like have an opportunity for us to donate to her funeral and burial services. I was expecting the company to give us information on how we can attend the funeral. Here is what this bullshit ass company did. We, at our quarterly meeting, so she passed away and maybe a month later, so there was nothing in terms of, I knew nothing about the funeral. I knew nothing about like how we could donate to like her family or anything like that. A month after she passed away, they gave her a moment of silence. And the CEO was like, "Oh, I'm so emotional about this." She never shed a tear. And they were like, "Oh, we're going to give her a moment of silence." And then after the moment of silence, like we went right back to fucking work. Like there was like no period of time that they spent in terms of making sure she had an amazing funeral, making sure her homegoing was appropriate. And if you needed any indication to let you know that you were just a number, that is an indication that you are just a number, because this poor woman, before she passed away, she had put her heart and soul into this company within the last 20 years. I mean, her heart and her soul. It got to a point where before she passed, she was working about 2 or 3 days before she passed away for this company, only for this company to give her a fucking moment of silence. So I say all that to say, as a reminder, you are just a number. You might be really cool with your boss. You might be really cool with the CEO. They might really love you, really love the work that you do. But at the end of the day, you are just a number. And that is why it is so important. I cannot stress this enough, to have multiple sources of income. And a great way to have multiple sources of income is a service-based business, a landing page to help you market your service-based business, but you have a service-based business, okay, where you can generate income through those services as you are looking for another job or even as you're working your job, okay? So if this episode has motivated you to start that service-based business, you can reach out to me via DM at the Identity of She. I'm here to help you. I would love to see every single person on this planet have multiple sources of income. Yes, have that full-time job or that part-time job, but have that business, okay? And especially if you are a person that's just like, I'm done with corporate, I drive Uber or I do Uber Eats, I feel you. I understand, because the pain of leaving a job and going to another job, it's a lot. It really is a lot. Dedicating your livelihood to this company, and these companies are a lot. So as you are dedicating your time and your energy and your resources and your heart to making these companies multi-million-dollar companies, as you are working to accomplish somebody else's goal, always remember to equally work as hard, if not harder, to accomplish your own goal. And a goal for everybody should be multiple sources of income, multiple streams of income. Okay. And again, if you need my help, DM me at the Identity of She. Okay. So I want to thank you all so much for listening to this episode, so much for engaging with me and, showing me love on this platform on Power 98.9. I really appreciate you guys. And I hope you all have a great rest of your morning. And remember, as you are working on accomplishing somebody else's dream, work on accomplishing your own dream as well. So thank you all. Have a great morning.